May 19, 1943. The North Atlantic, 100 miles southeast of Cape Farewell. The air inside U-222 is a thick, rancid cocktail of diesel fuel, unwashed bodies, and chloride gas leaking faintly from the batteries. Kapitänleutnant Rolf Herzog, 28 years old and already a holder of the Knight's Cross, presses his eyes against the rubber cowl of the attack periscope. His beard is matted with salt spray and sweat. For 12 days, his wolf pack, Gruppe Mosel, has found nothing. The Atlantic, once their happiest hunting ground, has become vast, empty, and terrifying. A low murmur comes from his sound operator, huddled over the Gruppenhochgerät hydrophones. Schraubengeräusche, faint, bearing 040. A large group, Herr Kapitän. A jolt of adrenaline cuts through the crew's lethargy. This is it. Convoy SC-130. Herzog allows himself a thin, predatory smile. Clear the scope. He wipes a greasy cloth across the lens eyepiece and raises it again, a silver needle emerging from the gray, rolling sea. He sweeps the horizon. Nothing. He lowers it, waits 3 agonizing minutes, and raises it again. There. Smudges. Dozens of them. Merchantmen, he breathes. At least 30. But then his stomach tightens. On the flanks. The sharp predatory outlines of warships, not just the usual corvettes. He spots the sleek, deadly profile of a new class destroyer. And further out, another and another. The convoy's escort is dangerously strong. This is not the happy time of 1941. This is a fortress. We will attack from the inside, Herzog decides. Penetrate the screen at dusk. We go in deep. It's a gamble, but tonnage is the only thing that matters. Grand Admiral Dönitz's orders are clear. Attack, attack, attack. The U-boat is the only weapon that can bring England to its knees. For 6 hours, U-222 plays a lethal game of cat and mouse, slipping past the outer screen. The air grows hotter. The carbon dioxide builds. Men wipe condensation from the steel bulkheads. Their movements sluggish, their eyes wide in the dim red light of the control room. Herzog lines up the fat belly of a 10,000-ton freighter. Torpedo room. Tubes 1 and 2. Feuer. A shudder runs through the boat as compressed air forces the electric eels from their tubes. Herzog is already swinging the periscope. Tubes 3 and 4. Target overlapping tanker. Feuer. Dive, dive. Take her to 150 meters. Schnell! The U-boat angles down, its crew bracing for the inevitable counterattack. They hear the satisfying distant thump, thump of their torpedoes striking home. A faint cheer dies in their throats as a new sound arrives, a sound that has become the anthem of their nightmares. Ping, ping, ping. Asdic. Sonar. The British destroyer HMS Vedette has a lock. Rig for silent running, Herzog whispers. The order is almost unnecessary. The men are already ghosts, freezing in place. The pinging grows faster, sharper, right overhead. The first pattern of depth charges is a symphony of destruction. The ocean is torn apart by 10,000 pounds of TNT. U-222 is seized by a giant invisible hand and shaken violently. The lights shatter. Rivets pop from the hull like gunfire. A pipe bursts, spraying high-pressure seawater across the engine room. The boat plunges, its hydroplane struggling. Pressure hull is holding. The chief engineer screams over the din. Ping, ping, ping. The second pattern is worse. It's a creeping attack. Another destroyer, HMS Swale, has joined. They are boxing him in. This isn't a random barrage. It's a cold, calculated execution. A charge detonates directly beneath the stern. The boat lurches, throwing men from their stations. The main lights are gone. Only the emergency lanterns cast flickering, hellish shadows. Chlorine gas, Herr Kapitän. Comes a choked cry from the battery compartment. The seawater, it's mixing with the acid. A greenish-yellow fog begins to creep along the deck plates. Herzog knows the calculation. They are trapped. Stay down and they suffocate or are crushed by the pressure. Surface and they face the guns. He looks at the faces of his men. Boys of 19 and 20, their eyes white with terror, choking on the poison gas. His war is over. Blow all tanks. Surface, surface. Auftauchen. With a roar of compressed air, the crippled submarine rockets toward the light. It breaches the waves like a dying whale, alarms screaming. Herzog is the first one up the conning tower ladder, kicking open the hatch. The sudden shock of cold, fresh air is a blessing and a curse. He is met by a wall of searchlights and the deafening crack, crack, crack of 20mm Oerlikon fire. The destroyers are circling, their guns blazing. Abandon ship. Alle Mann von Bord. Herzog is the last man off, leaping into the frigid Atlantic. As he bobs in the oily water, clinging to a piece of debris, he watches U-222, his command, his pride, lift its bow to the sky and slide backward into the abyss. He has failed. He has sunk 2 ships, but he has lost his boat, his crew, and his freedom. As a British whaler plucks him from the sea, a coarse blanket thrown over his shoulders, Kapitänleutnant Rolf Herzog believes his war has reached its lowest possible point. He has no idea that the most profound shock is yet to come. June 2, 1943, Pier 92, New York Harbor. The journey has been a blur of disorientation and humiliation. Kapitänleutnant Rolf Herzog and his 43 surviving crewmen were first held in the damp, crowded forecastle of HMS Vedette, the stench of wet wool and boiled tea replacing the familiar diesel scent of their U-boat. They were treated with a cold, professional correctness that was almost worse than outright hostility. They were, Herzog realized, no longer predators. They were cargo. After a tense transfer in St. John's, Newfoundland, they were herded into the hold of a fast troop transport, a ship they would have hunted just weeks before. Now they were crammed below the waterline, listening to the rhythmic pulse of its powerful turbines, the sound of an enemy they could not sink, racing them west. Away from the war, away from home, Herzog stands on the deck, blinking in the hazy morning sun, the salt air of the New World filling his lungs. He is in handcuffs. The skyline of Manhattan tears at the sky, a wall of impossible, decadent towers. It is a spectacle of wealth and power that seems utterly untouched by the war that is bleeding his homeland dry. As they are marched down the gangplank, longshoremen stop and stare, some shouting curses, others just watching with cold curiosity. U.S. Navy Shore Patrol, armed with .45 automatics and batons, shove them roughly into a line. Look at it. Herr Kapitän, whispers his chief engineer. Oberleutnant Caden. It's grotesque. All this, while our cities burn. Herzog says nothing. His Knight's Cross is gone, confiscated. He is just another prisoner in a salt-stained uniform. He retains only his pride, a brittle, hollow thing. He and his officers are separated from the enlisted men and pushed onto a bus with blacked-out windows. The journey is short, moving them from the docks to a railway transfer. For 2 days they ride a train. They are fed simple, shockingly plentiful food. White bread, hot coffee, beef. It's more than they've seen in months. The windows are covered, but they can sense the vastness of the continent. This is the country they were told was a decadent mongrel nation, too soft and disorganized to fight. On the 3rd day, the train shudders to a halt at a small, undisclosed siding. The door slides open, revealing not the barbed wire of a permanent POW camp, but a stern-faced man in a crisp U.S. Navy commander's uniform. He is flanked by 2 armed Marines. Kapitänleutnant Herzog, the commander says, his German precise, almost unaccented. My name is Commander Stevens. You and your officers will be coming with me. Where are you taking us? Herzog demands, his voice raspy. Under the Geneva Convention, we are to be taken to a camp. Stevens ignores the question. You will be given back your tunics for this. I am advised that you should look your best. A cold spike of fear, sharper than the depth charges, hits Herzog. Look their best? For what? A show trial? A press conference? They are marched into another bus. This time the windows are clear. They drive for an hour, through a landscape that is becoming increasingly industrial, and then they hear it. It begins as a low rumble like distant thunder, but as they crest a hill, the sound becomes a physical force, a deafening, continuous metallic scream. It's the sound of 1,000 hammers, the roar of 10,000 torches, the shriek of cranes. Herzog stares, his mouth falling open. Below them, sprawling for as far as the eye can see, is a shipyard, but it is not a shipyard. It is a city built of steel and fire. It's the Kaiser shipyard in Richmond, California. What is this place? Caden whispers, his face pale. The bus descends into the inferno. They see skeletons of ships in dozens of slipways. They see massive steel plates being swung through the air as if they were cardboard. They see armies of workers, men and, to their astonishment, women in helmets and overalls moving with a frantic, rhythmic purpose. The bus stops at an observation platform overlooking the main launching way, Way 7. A klaxon blares, cutting through the din. Commander Stevens steps to the front of the bus. "Gentlemen," he says, his voice devoid of emotion, "welcome to America." A ship, painted in drab gray, its decks already fitted with anti-aircraft guns, begins to slide backward into the water. A band plays. People cheer. It's a Liberty ship, the SS Robert E. Peary. "Impressive," Herzog says, forcing a sneer. "You have built a ship." Stevens looks at his watch. "Yes, we have. That one was laid down 4 days, 15 hours and 29 minutes ago." The German officers stare. They don't understand. "It's a language barrier, it must be." "You mean, the keel," Caden says. "You laid the keel 4 days ago." "I mean," Commander Stevens says, turning to look Herzog directly in the eye, "that 4.5 days ago that slipway was empty. Now that ship is launching. She will be fully fitted and loaded with cargo for Britain in another 3 days. Herzog feels the blood drain from his face. He looks at the shipyard again. On the next slipway, a new keel is already being laid, the pieces slotting into place while the Peary is still hitting the water. The sound he hears isn't just construction. It's the sound of his world ending. A cold wind whips across the observation platform, but Rolf Herzog doesn't feel it. He is frozen. The sound of the shipyard, the relentless, deafening clangor of industrial creation, seems to fade, replaced by a rushing sound in his own ears. He stares at the empty slipway where moments before the SS Robert E. Peary sat. Already a massive crane is lowering the first prefabricated section of a new keel. The plate, weighing dozens of tons, is guided into place by a swarm of workers and welded within minutes. "It's a trick," Oberleutnant Caden mutters, his voice thin. "A film, propaganda, they are not real ships. They are coffins. They will break apart in the first North Atlantic gale." Herzog wants to believe him. He needs to believe him. He turns to Commander Stevens, searching the American's face for any sign of a bluff. "These are not ships," Herzog says, his voice flat. "These are Einwegschiffe, disposable. They cannot last." Commander Stevens nods as if conceding the point. "You're partially correct, Kapitänleutnant. They aren't built like your Hamburg liners. They're not built to last 40 years. They are built to last one round trip." He pauses, letting the words sink in. They only have to cross the Atlantic once. Deliver 10,000 tons of tanks or bombs or food, and if you manage to sink it on the way back, we don't care. We'll have launched 3 more by then. Herzog's mind, trained for the precise calculations of a torpedo attack, begins to spin. He does the arithmetic, the horrifying, undeniable arithmetic. He thinks of his own boat, U-222, a masterpiece of engineering, a Type 7C. From the day her keel was laid at the Germania Werft in Kiel to her first combat patrol, it took nearly 11 months. 11 months of skilled labor, of scarce materials, of diverting resources from the Eastern Front. 11 months to produce one weapon. He looks out at the sprawling chaos of the Kaiser yard. He counts the active slipways. 10, 12, 15. He just saw one ship launched in 4.5 days. Even if that was a propaganda stunt, even if the real average is double that, 10 days. This one shipyard, this one location in a country 3,000 miles from the fighting, is launching a new 10,000-ton freighter every single day. His Wolfpack, Gruppe Mosel, on its best month, sank 80,000 tons of shipping. It was a staggering victory celebrated by Donitz himself. They had lost 3 U-boats to achieve it. Herzog realizes with a sickening hollow certainty that this one American shipyard can replace Gruppe Mosel's most successful month of sinkings. In 8 days, all the sacrifice, all the men who drowned in the cold dark, all the patrols, the terror of the depth charges, the crushing pressure, the foul air. It was all meaningless. It was a rounding error in this man's production schedule. "How long?" Herzog asks, his voice barely a whisper. "Does it take you to build a destroyer? Like the Vedette?" Stevens points to another part of the yard where sharper, leaner hulls are taking shape. "Our new destroyer escorts. The Fletchers are more complex, of course. But the new Ds, we're getting those down to about 3 months. And we're building them in batches like sausages. But really, Kapitänleutnant, the escorts are almost secondary." Herzog is confused. "How can that be? The escort is the hunter." "Because the math has changed," Stevens says, turning to leave. "We're not just building ships. We're building the shipyards. Henry Kaiser, the man who runs this place, wasn't a shipbuilder. He built dams. He builds systems. We are not trying to win the Battle of the Atlantic, Herr Kapitän. We are simply overwhelming it." We are building a bridge of steel to Europe. And you, your men, your Reich, you have simply run out of torpedoes. Herzog looks at the faces of his fellow officers. Their arrogance is gone. Their pride is shattered. In its place is a cold, gray understanding. They see the vast yards, the endless stacks of steel plate, the rivers of trucks and trains feeding the monster, the thousands of civilian workers. This is not a nation mobilized for war. This is a nation inconvenienced by war, and it is turning its full, terrible industrial fury upon them. The battle wasn't unwinnable because the British were good sailors, or because their own torpedoes were faulty. It was unwinnable because of this, because of a man who built dams, because of women in welding masks, because of an assembly line that stretched across a continent. Herzog thinks of his crewmen, the enlisted men in their POW camp. He thinks of his comrades still out there in the Atlantic, hunting, hiding, dying. They don't know. They still believe their skill, their courage, their Gottmittons will prevail. He is a prisoner of war, but for the first time he understands that he is also a survivor. The men still at sea, they are the ones who are truly doomed. August 14, 1943, Camp Ruston, Louisiana. The bus ride away from the shipyard was silent. The hellish rhythmic thunder of the assembly lines faded, replaced by the mundane hum of the tires on the road. But for Rolf Herzog and his officers, the noise was still there. It was burned into their minds, a phantom echo of their nation's doom. They were men haunted by the future. Now they are deep in the humid pine forests of northern Louisiana. The air is thick, wet, and suffocating, a stark contrast to the clean, cold gales of the North Atlantic. Camp Ruston is a sprawling, orderly city of wooden barracks, surrounded by fences and guard towers. It is clean. It is organized. It is, Herzog noted with a fresh pang of despair, stocked with a casual abundance that beggared belief. He sits on a simple cot in Barracks 2B, designated for Kriegsmarine officers. He has been issued new clothing, simple POW work shirts stenciled in large white letters. Through the window he can see other prisoners playing soccer on a dusty field. They are laughing. They are bored. They are the crews of U-boats sunk in 1941 and 1942. They are men who were captured before the tide truly turned, before the air gap was closed, before the hunter-killer groups, and before Kaiser Oberleutnant Kaiser lies on the adjacent bunk, staring at the wooden slats above him. They don't know, Kaiser whispers, his voice raw. He's been saying variations of this for 2 months. The men, the army prisoners, they still talk of the Führer's new weapons, of Mirakelwunderwaffen, of driving the Allies into the sea. Let them, Herzog says, his voice flat. He is carving a small piece of wood with a confiscated mess hall knife. Let them have their hope. But Kapitän, Kaiser insists, sitting up. We know the truth. We saw it. It's a sin to let them go on believing. My brother is still out there. On U-406, Herzog stops carving. He looks at his engineer, a man he once trusted with his life, and feels only a deep, weary pity. And what would you have us do, Oberleutnant? Shall we walk to the wire and shout? Stop, it's all for nothing. America is building a ship every day. They would call us traitors. They would say we are broken, that we have succumbed to enemy propaganda. He taps his temple. What we saw, it is not just knowledge, Kaiser, it is a poison. It is our burden. The men who are still fighting, they can only do so because they don't know. They believe their sacrifice matters. Does it not? Herzog looks down at the piece of wood. It is becoming a crude small U-boat. We fought for tonnage. We counted our sinkings. That was our measure of victory. He throws the carving against the wall where it clatters to the floor. It was a fool's game. We were sinking rowboats in a typhoon. The real war, the only war that matters, is not fought by soldiers. It is fought by men like this Herr Kaiser, by factory managers, by welders. The camp's routine is a mockery of their former lives. They are offered classes by a local university. They are shown American films. They are given 3 hot meals a day, rich with meat, coffee, and white bread. Luxuries that German civilians hadn't seen in years. This, Herzog realizes, is the true psychological weapon. It's not just the shipyard. It's the everything. The Americans are not just outbuilding Germany. They are outliving it with an ease that is insulting. They are fighting a total war with their left hand, while their right hand, as he could see from the magazines left in the camp library, was still busy going to baseball games in the cinema. A new group of prisoners is marched into the compound, Their faces grim, their uniforms still damp. They are submariners, captured only weeks ago in the Bay of Biscay. Herzog watches them, a new cold calculation in his eyes. He is no longer Kapitänleutnant Herzog, hunter of the deep. He is an observer, a historian of the end. He wonders, will the Americans show them the shipyards too? Is this a standard policy? A deliberate, brilliant stroke of psychological warfare to infect the entire German officer corps, one captured crew at a time, with the virus of hopelessness. He realizes that his war is not over. It has simply changed. His new enemy is not the British destroyer. It is the despair in his own mind. His new battle is not to sink ships, but to find a reason to wake up tomorrow, knowing that every ship he ever sank, every man he lost, and every award he ever won meant nothing.